this is my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so this episode doesn't really have any major plot developments, but it does bring up something very important regarding stands. So the episode starts off with Josuke and Okuyasu on their way home from school, and they're just kind of meandering around Morioh, going on their way back from visiting Keiicho's Nijimura's grave. So and notably Okuyasu is hungry and he wants something to eat. But Josuke isn't really all that hungry. However, for whatever reason, they see a sign pointing toward a new restaurant, the Trattoria Trisardi, an Italian restaurant on the edge of Morioh. And Okuyasu, being Okuyasu, decides, hey, we should go check this new place out. And sure enough, they go check it out, and it was an abandoned building, but not anymore. But Josuke notices that the sign for the special reads "depends on the customer," and which he finds a little bit odd. So they go, but in any case, they go inside the restaurant and are immediately greeted by the restaurant's owner Tonio Trisardi, who offers them a seat and says that he's been training his whole life to basically provide the best cuisine that he can. And Okuyasu is happy that he decided to come in there, mainly because if Tonio says that the food is good, then it most likely is. So and asks him for a menu, but is then thrown for a loop when Tonio claims that they don't have a menu, and claims that he is in fact going to give them food by looking at the customer. So, which is what he means by depends on the customer. So, and sure enough, Okuyasu and Josuke are a little bit skeptical, but then Tonio is able to deduce every single thing that is ailing Okuyasu. Namely, he didn't sleep at night, and he's incredibly tired. He has a stiff shoulder. He has athlete's foot. He had diarrhea the night before, and he has 2 cavities in his mouth. And sure enough, based on that, he's willing to prepare him a very special 5-course meal. So at which point, and also Josuke remarks that he's not really hungry and will stick with coffee. So first things first, he pours some water for them, and then leaves to go prepare the rest of the food. So and Josuke is a little iffy about the whole thing. He's a little bit iffy about how he could claim that his food is so incredibly good. But then Okuyasu drinks some of the mineral water that Tonio brought them, and is moved to tears. And Josuke concludes that the water is indeed very good. However, something interesting happens in that Okuyasu can't stop crying. He starts bawling his eyes out for no apparent reason, and it gets to the point where his eyes start to dry out and shrivel up. And naturally, Josuke is very concerned for his friend. But Tonio eventually comes back out of the kitchen with the first meal and antipasto made out of mozzarella and tomatoes, and points out that Okuyasu's eyes will return to normal eventually, and sure enough, they do. Also oddly enough, Okuyasu remarks that he is no longer tired and feels like he slept for 10 hours. But Tonio also points out that the same effects will not apply to Josuke because Josuke got a good night's sleep the night before. But in any case, he brings out the antipasto, which I mentioned before is tomatoes and mozzarella. And Okuyasu initially doesn't understand that he's supposed to eat them together, and Tonio eventually explains that to him. And once he does, he's overwhelmed with passion and flavor, and he adamantly enjoys it. But then he starts noticing that his neck is a little bit hot, and Tonio points out that the food is actually helping cure his stiff shoulder, and remarks that he should probably take off his jacket. And sure enough, Okuyasu does, and starts scratching off all the skin on his shoulder, which Tonio remarks has become dead skin. And sure enough, he scratches out all the dead skin, enough to make an entire softball size of it. And sure enough, Josuke is also again very concerned because Okuyasu just scratched out his shoulder, and there's a lot of it now. But oddly enough, again, Okuyasu is completely fine. His stiff shoulder is completely gone. And sure enough, Tonio leaves to go get the next plate, but now Josuke is a bit suspicious and is starting to suspect that Tonio may not be what he seems. So sure enough, Tonio eventually comes back with what I believe what he said was harlot spaghetti, which basically means that a bunch of stuff that don't really make sense on spaghetti, but surprisingly enough work really well. But the problem is that Okuyasu initially struggles with eating it because he can't put it in his mouth and because he doesn't normally like spicy things. And Josuke remarks not so coldly to Tonio that if Okuyasu doesn't like it, he shouldn't eat it. And Tonio suspects that Josuke might not like him all that much and decides to make himself scarce to prepare the next dish, but points out that Okuyasu will most likely enjoy what he's about to put in his mouth, regardless of his actual palate. And once Tonio leaves, Josuke lays his suspicions down on Okuyasu, while Okuyasu is licking this spaghetti throughout this entire scene, might I add, even though it's too spicy for him and he can't actually bring himself to, eat it. He points out that he suspects that Tonio might be a stand user, and suspects that it's entirely possible since a bunch of strange things have happened since they come into the restaurant, and points out that only a stand user would be able to make those things happen. And Okuyasu kind of agrees with Josuke, but then finally, after licking it several times, decides to finally put the spaghetti in his mouth and start eating, despite Josuke warning him not to. And sure enough, when he eats the spaghetti, it causes it causes the teeth that have the cavities to fly out, and then two new teeth grow in at supernatural speed. And Josuke, finally having the proof that he needs that Tonio might be a stand user, attacks the spaghetti with his stand to actually draw out its base ingredients, and sure enough, discovers the stand Pearl Jam inside of Okuyasu's food, which then flees to the kitchen in the direction of Tonio. And Josuke, now having all the proof that he needs, and with Okuyasu now doubled over in pain, because of what he just ate, for whatever reason, Josuke decides to go confront Tonio in the kitchen, where he's prepared the final course to Okuyasu's meal, and is also testing it on a dog. And Josuke is a little bit skeptical at first until the dog's stomach blows open and its intestines fly out. And sure enough, Josuke gasps in audit and visible shock, which causes Tonio to turn around and realize that somebody's spying on him, and he goes after Josuke, with Josuke trying to defend himself. However, during this sequence, Okuyasu actually managed to get away from his stomach pain and crawl into the kitchen after Josuke, and starts wolfing down the next dish of his meal, which, oddly enough, causes his intestines to burst out of his stomach, same as the dog. And while Josuke is trying to help his friend, Tonio motions like he's going to attack Josuke, but then it's revealed that Tonio isn't evil at all. So it sets this entire thing up throughout this entire episode that he might be evil, and then it deliberately falls flat on its face. That's what I find interesting. As it turns out, what Tonio was about to attack Josuke with was a bar of soap, and tells him that he needs to rinse his hands because he most likely carried germs into the kitchen. And sure enough, Okuyasu comes back completely fine, and now his inflamed intestines from his diarrhea are gone. So now he's almost completely fine. At which point Josuke realizes that that Tonio seems to only want to have Okuyasu eat good food. And sure enough, Tonio confirms this, pointing out that he has a love of cuisine, and all he wants to do is be the best chef he can be. That's the whole reason he founded the restaurant. He wants to help people, and that's what he decides to do. And finally, Josuke asks the very all-important question of if Tonio's a stand user, and reveals that they are stand users too. And Tonio is happy that he found fellow stand users and his stand Pearl Jam gatherers around him. And he points out that the reason he developed his stand was not so much because he had the developmental potential to develop a stand, but because his sheer willpower to help people through food caused him to develop a stand that brings out the latent healing properties of food to heal people. So he wasn't shot with a bow and arrow at all. He just had a really strong will to become a damn good chef and develop the stands that works according with his very specific skills that he was trying to develop. So that's interesting. But also not surprisingly, he yells at Josuke for tracking germs into his kitchen and forces Josuke to clean up everything while Okuyasu finishes off the last piece of his meal, a little plate of flan, which he then eats, and his athlete's foot is gone. So yeah, Tonio after feeding Okuyasu his 5-course meal, and after having Josuke scrub down the entirety of the kitchen that he contaminated, escorts them out after they pay the bill, of course, and the two boys leave. So, and also as the very last thing that we see in this episode, and this is the only real plot development of the episode, although it's a minor one. Joseph Joestar is coming to visit Morioh. That long and short of it, that's just what happens. It's like the final scene is of Jotaro sitting in a park somewhere. A member of the Speedwagon Foundation comes up and gives him a message firsthand, since power lines are dangerous, because of Red Hot Chili Pepper, that Joseph Joestar is coming to help with the investigation. So that's really the only major plot development we get this episode. But more to the point, this episode is just some stands are beneficial to people, and not every stand user is trying to kill each other. That's the important thing that needs to be taken away from this review and this whole episode. Not all stand users are trying to kill each other. Some are actually beneficial to other people, and that's what this arc is supposed to set up. This episode's supposed to set up that not all stand users are out to kill you, and some are even trying to help you. And sure enough, that's what this episode is. Tonio developed the stand Pearl Jam because he was studying cuisine and trying to improve his skills as a chef. And he decides to use that stand to hurt people temporarily, yes, but in the long run, he just heals any ailments that they have, and then they go away. And also, it's implied that his stand doesn't take damage when it gets eaten, or at the very least, it gets digested and then is immediately phased out of the body, it's a stand that doesn't reflect his damage back on the user, which is, I guess, helpful for a stand that needs to be ingested. But yeah, overall, this episode just introduces the concept that not all stands are bad, that not all stands are dangerous and trying to kill other stand users, and some are even trying to help people. That's what this episode is, and I very much enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. Also be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks, so be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and also next time I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!